Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Kolbeck, and we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that your journey, whether you want to call it your spiritual journey, whether you want to call it your life journey, however you name it, your journey, your path is your own. Your path is your own. I attend a place called Unity Center of Des Moines. I go there most Sundays. And one of the things I love about the place that first attracted me to the place was there's no dogma, there's no rules, there's no, well, you must believe this because this is right. This is the only way. And that was a place I had arrived at in my life through life experiences some time ago, and then finding a place, a community where that particular principle was put forth, where where it is recognized that everyone is on their own unique spiritual journey. And nobody has all of the right answers, per se. You allow people to be where they are, you meet them where they are. And this journey is all about, I think it's twofold for me. It's like the journey home to self. And you know the saying that says, know thyself and ye shall know the gods, right? Because the I am dwells within. And everything that you're in relationship with starts from here. It starts with you. Everything and everyone that you're in relationship with is a reflection or an extension of how deep and how rich the relationship with yourself is. Because you can truly only meet another to the level or to the degree to which you have met yourself. And how do we meet ourselves? We meet ourselves during the journey. We meet ourselves on the path. So let's take for a moment, we'll create this mountain over here. Let's do it like this, right? Okay. That's the best mountain you're going to get. And then here's the top of the mountain right here, we'll say. All right. Well, here's a path. And this path, to get to the top of this mountain, goes like this, right? Because sometimes that is truly what it feels like. And eventually, you get to the top of the mountain. But this is just one person's path. Another person's path, they may start over here, right? They may come along, they may intersect with your path. They may even walk on your path with you momentarily. Up here, they cross paths again and they take a nice detour, right? So everybody's path is their own. Let's do another one. Maybe we've got one here that looks like, appears like they start right here. They don't start all the way back here. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not true. Maybe that's just what it feels like. They come up. Maybe they walk a little bit on the same path that this individual in red did. And then maybe they join both with the individual in red and green here. And then maybe something happens and they fall back down a little bit. And they got to descend a little bit, and then they begin to come back up. All of our paths are different. That's the beautiful thing about this. But eventually, this is where we are all headed. It's headed to the summit. And the one thing I want you to realize about this is In truth, there is no end point here. Our experiences, knowledge itself, life itself, the universe itself is ever expanding, is ever expanding. So yes, we have an intent of where we're going. We want to make it to the top of the mountain. But our paths and our journey to get there may look completely different from the person next to us. And the problem we get into a lot is we compare ourselves. Like, why doesn't my path look like that other person's? Why am I not like that? Well, because you're not them. You've had a completely different set of experiences, even if you grew up in a home with brothers and sisters or a twin, right? And twins are identical in so many ways, and yet their experiences are still different, even if they've experienced the same thing. Tolkien said that not all who wander are lost. And I love that because so many times there's such a judgment around why is that person doing that? Right? Don't they know that they should go this way? Don't they know they should do this? Well, actually, probably no, they don't. Maybe on some level of their being, they do. But there's more lessons for them in this part of the path that may seem very difficult, may be very rocky. Speaking from my own experience, there were times in my life where I was in certain relationships where things were very bad. Things were very difficult. And the fact is, though, people who knew some extent of how difficult things were, they would try to reach out. They would try to talk to me about it, but I would always make excuses. I would always say, oh, it's just because of this, just because of that, right? Make stories and things about this that those others could not necessarily help me. And they recognized that I wasn't at a point where their help, their advice, etc., could be received by me. And so they allowed me to continue on my path. They always let me know, hey, we're here if you ever need anything. No judgments, no anything like that. You know, just love. We're always here if you need anything. But they realized I couldn't see what I couldn't see. I couldn't accept what I couldn't accept until the point arrived that I could actually accept it, right? So that's another thing about these paths. On our journey, we all have like big monumental experiences that occur at times, right? I'm just going to designate these by where these X's are, right? So with each experience, we gain more knowledge. With each experience, we have a different lens through which to see the world. The beautiful thing is, as well, when we are on the path, many, many times it doesn't feel like it. Many times, in my experience, it feels like I have no options. I have no other choice. I must stay in this and continue going forward in this, even though life is telling me by everything that is occurring, this isn't working anymore. Right? And maybe it never worked from the beginning, but you're too hard-headed and stubborn to realize what you need to realize. That's okay. Because your hard-headedness and stubbornness, like right here, maybe you can't do anything. Maybe you're like, well, this is just the way it is right now. And you keep pushing through and keep pushing through. And maybe as you go down on another portion of the path, you get another experience. And through the various experiences that you have, now you're at a point where you say, oh, I know what was going on back here. But back here, I couldn't see it. I can only see it now because of these other experiences on the path that I've had. And this is why I think it's so valuable to allow people to be where they are, to meet people where they are, to not offer advice really, unless they're asking you for advice. And these are general rules, right? Sometimes we have things that come through us that feel like, okay, I need to express this to this person right now. But even in that, you can say to them, something just came through. I have something to share with you. It could kind of fall into the category of advice. You can still ask them for their permission, right? Would you like me to share this with you? Because it's so true that once you expose somebody to a new idea or to a new thing, that can change their life. And maybe they're not ready to change anything yet. Maybe they don't want that advice. Maybe they don't want that piece of information yet. And there's no right or wrong in it, right? That's what I love about looking at paths and looking at the fact that we all have our own unique path. And at any point in the path, we can make a change. At any point in the path, we have the freedom to choose. I think that's a wonderful thing because the freedom to choose, choice in and of itself, is freedom. It's autonomy, it's sovereignty, it's personal or internal empowerment, right? It doesn't mean you're doing everything on your own. You still have the divine within you. You are fully human and fully divine, right? You have all of this working together, all of this available to you. But the thing I love about this is meet yourself where you are on the path. Meet another person where they are on the path. It is not your job to get somebody else from the point that they are on their path to a place that you think that they need to be. Right? And that's the thing when I went through a life coaching certification program, right? And I had already had this belief in myself anyway, that the most important thing is to just meet another person where they are. And that you, even if you're a coach, you're not trying to get them anywhere on the path that you think is correct. You are trying to help them, help facilitate and empower them to make their own decisions about what the next step in the path might be. And then for them to make that decision and to own that decision, whichever way it goes, right? It may look like it's a negative thing at first, but maybe it ends up being a positive thing. So many roads lead to the top of the mountain. We're all at different points in our journey, right? So the green person started down here, this orange or yellowish may have started up here. Another person started down here. The reality of the situation is we all come into this world, we're all born, right, into the physical realm. So from that aspect, we all start at the same place. But there's a whole bunch of different factors in life, socio-economic, educational, lots of different things that can play in that give it the appearance of a person is farther along on the path than another person. That's just during one lifetime. So this could be the path of one lifetime, or maybe this is the path of many lifetimes, right? And each X represents a different lifetime where you started and ended a lifetime. You took some time out, you come back in, right? Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to start at the same point. Maybe you learned this much here on this path. You check out, and maybe you want to come back in, and you come back in and you start over here on this completely different path. Maybe here you were born in America, right? And lived a pretty short life. Maybe your life was only 30 years or so. But then you come back over here, and maybe now you live in Asia, Japan, something like that, and you live a long, long life in that particular life. So again, I love the way that you can look at this. You can look at this mountain either within one lifetime or across multiple lifetimes. Either way, we are all progressing at different rates, and it is not up to us to awaken people. It is not up to us to get them to another point. We can choose to be there for somebody if they are at a point in their lives where they are ready for that, if they are at a point in their path where they are ready for that. But until that time, allow them to be on their path where they are. Don't try to force them off their own path in any way. Just like you don't appreciate it when somebody tries to force you off of your path and tell you that your path isn't the right one. As we wrap up, I want to talk about, I've got a website out there, it's been out there for a while, riseagainllc.com. It's a little outdated. I don't keep it up much or anything like that. But I'm going to read something. I'm going to read a blog that I put out there, I think it's like 3 or 4 years ago now. And this is what we'll use to just wrap this up. All right. To begin with, I want you to think of today, where do you feel like you are on your path? Do you allow yourself, do you meet yourself on the path where you are, or are you constantly comparing yourself to somebody else and their path, and then thinking that you're deficient in some way? Or maybe you're looking at another person on their path and you're thinking, whether you tell them or not, but you're consistently saying they're wrong. That's the wrong thing. They shouldn't be doing that. Right? It takes away, those are judgments. And judgments, normally when we make a judgment against another, it's really an internal reflection of some part of ourself, some part of our shadow that wants to be experienced, that wants to be acknowledged in and of itself, that wants to be integrated. I also want you to look at on these paths, do you meet others where they are? And do you allow them to be where they are? Do you step back and do you say, there's been some hard things on my path, but there's also been some wonderful things on my path. And there's been some difficult things on this other person's path. And yet those are also the things many times that lead to a person's next level of growth, right? And for us to try to jump in and alter their path when they're not ready, when they're not asking, is, in a sense, robbing them maybe of the experiences that they need to have. So take a look at this. Just see what comes up for you. There's no right or wrong. Maybe there's a better way that you think would be to, maybe something resonates a little bit more with you in terms of how you would describe a person's own unique spiritual journey or life journey or path that they have. A blog that I wrote 3 or 4 years ago starts off saying this. Just going to read it through word for word here. No one else can walk your path for you. It is for you and you alone. Now, that being said, it does not mean that you must walk it alone in solitude without someone by your side. For we are truly not made to be alone. In fact, we are made to be in communion with others. But communion with others only begins by you first being in communion with yourself. Now, even if someone is walking alongside you on the very path that you are walking, the experience along that very same path is still unique for each of you. The singular path, appearing only to be your own, has indeed become two separate paths, one for you and one for the other, but giving the appearance of only one. So that's here where we have the red, the yellow, and the green all merging. They may be walking alongside the path, walking each other home, as Ram Dass says, right? And yet they are still each. They are mutually supporting one another. They are supporting themselves, and yet they are each having their own unique experience, their own unique part of the journey. Just as no one else can walk your path for you, you cannot walk their path for them. You may walk alongside them, support them, but the same principle described above is at play. Throughout my life experience, I gained nothing from another trying to force their path or put them on the right path. Nor does anyone gain any benefit from me when I try to save or rescue them from their path. What seems to be a paradox, but is truth nonetheless, is that the very person that will need to save another on their path is rarely you or me. Rather, it's usually themselves. For true salvation only comes from within. I admit I still have moments where I feel like my way is the best way. A judgment, no doubt, and one lacking truth. But nevertheless, my mind will set to the task of determining how to help the other person who seems to be lost. After all, don't they see what's coming up ahead? How can they not see what they are walking into? How can they not see what they are in the midst of? Many times in this life, I was blind to the path that I was on. I just couldn't see the danger that seemed to be clear as day to those that were around me. And at first, they tried to warn me and to help me see that which I could not. Yet in time, they realized my path was my own and there was nothing they could do but wait. An extremely difficult thing to do for those who can see what we are blind to. For maybe their life experience has taught them something that we have yet to discover for ourselves. And in the wisdom gained from their experience, they knew that they could not make a blind man see the things which he was unwilling or unable to see. As such, they simply continued to live in love with me, ensuring that I knew they were always there if I ever needed anything. Truth is, the every step we take on our path is part of our journey, the path home, to a greater understanding of ourselves, of truly knowing who we are. And it is only through the path that one comes to know thyself. A feat that is not possible if one refuses to walk the path or if another swoops in and rescues you from it. Or I will add, if you simply ride the coattails of somebody else and you are drug along, you are following them. For it is on the path that we encounter trials and tribulations, heartbreak and pain, joy and ecstasy, all of which are meant to refine us and that occur for our greatest good, bringing us into a fuller experience of ourselves and life, of human and divine. I have walked many paths in this life, paths full of shoulds and should nots, paths full of obligations and supposed tos, paths filled with happiness and joy beyond my wildest expectations, and those filled with the darkest of nights and the loss of all hope, paths directed by the belief that others and life itself had imprinted on me, paths where I truly did not yet know myself. Yet in all of these experiences along my path, the divine and life itself has always provided for me exactly what I needed. At times, seeing or experiencing a familiar pain along my path, I would try to find ways to circumvent it, to avoid looking in the mirror and seeing the truths I did not want to see. Sometimes this was done by making a story up in my mind that this time it'll be different. And other times, I tried thwarting the path simply by refusing to move. Yet I have found that in the latter, life itself will eventually force me to move, for it has a cycle of its own, and it will force me to move whether I want to or not. In my resistance to it, I simply create more suffering for myself. And if the lesson has not been learned along the previous experiences of the path, it will continue to present itself in various ways until I learn the truth the lesson was here to teach me. Now, no one has ever said the path would be easy, although some would like you to believe it is so, if you just did and believed all of the right things. But sometimes, no matter which direction you step, there doesn't seem to be anything but steep cliffs, cactus, thorn bushes, and no matter how you try to figure out how to get around them, the only option for you is to go through. These are the times to lean in and to push through areas covered in dense thorn bushes. It is a time to dig deep and learn who you are when life isn't a bed of roses. As some would proclaim, it is time to embrace the suck. It's not about denying the reality of the thorns or the cliff, but acknowledging that they are there and choosing to be in the moment with them regardless, all the while holding on to the wisdom deep within that this too shall pass. Now we can sit and rest from time to time along the path, as that is essential. At times, as we are climbing the mountain, we need to take a break. We need to acclimate, but it's only a period of acclimation. It's not indefinite. And once we've acclimated, then we continue our journey on the path. We can sit and rest along the path, as that is essential. It allows us time to catch our breath and to process or integrate all that we are and all that we are experiencing. But as is true with any path, sitting still for too long will only create stagnation, another indicator that life itself, that something needs to come to shake things up a bit. As hard as it is to see another on a path that we have already walked, we must allow them the freedom on their journey. The best we can do in these situations is be there for them when they have had enough, when they reach out for help. And again, we have a decision at that point for ourselves as well. At the point of the path that you are in at that moment, do you have the capacity? Do you have the bandwidth? Do you have the ability to help this person where they are with what they're asking for at this time? Maybe you do, and maybe you don't, and both are okay. Until they reach out, as hard as it can be at times, we must allow them to discover the deeper truths of who they are and of life itself. Wisdom comes in knowing that there is a season for everything under the sun. Just as there is a time to allow them the steps they must take, there is also a time where you may be called to walk alongside them or even carry them until they can walk again. Maybe all of this is best summed up in the old adage, live and let live. And I would add to do so in love, being patient, kind, and honoring the path of yourself as well as the path of another. Blessings and love.